Church in Providence, where our site is today. But just as important, we want to make sure that we are all aware of what we've been doing. This is actually our fourth session. This is our fourth session, and we are intentional. We have approximately 15 more sessions to go. But we want to make sure that we're trying to reach as many people as possible. We are doing it in person here, but we also have, as I can see on the screen here, we have persons that are connected via of our networks, Zoom. For those that may be listening but don't have that access, we'll make sure we put that in the chat. So we want to make sure that we're able to communicate to as many persons as possible. As you are aware, we as the Ministers Alliance of Rhode Island have undergone the initiative of being able to communicate the importance of cancer and the importance of making sure that we're screening and also talking about cancer. Cancer is one of the highest diagnosed within the state of Rhode Island. Approximately 7,200 people are diagnosed with cancer in this state. And it becomes our responsibility as African Americans and Black and Brown community to make sure that we're educating and encouraging our population of the importance of cancer screening, the importance of survivorship. And so what we are undertaking is to make sure that we have a three-pronged approach. That three-pronged approach, one is community conversations, which is what we're doing now. Secondly is cancer screening, which we'll be talking periodically about that, but we will have places where we can go to be screened for cancer, and survivorship support. And survivorship support is making sure that we recognize and understand the importance of persons that have cancer that we can support, be it loved ones, be it spouses, whatever the case may be. We want to make sure that there's a family and support group that can help be with them, not necessarily walk them through it, but have the compassion that they need as they navigate a new normal or a repeated normal. And so that becomes extremely important. And so we are happy today to be able to bring persons to you from different aspects of the cancer world. We have cancer survivors, we have expertise personnel, we have different agencies that are promoting the importance of cancer as well as ourselves. When we look at the Ministers Alliance, we have undertaken a number of initiatives, but this one here we know impacts a variety of people. But what we also want to make sure that we are aware of is that we are educating our population in regards to what to do and how often we need to make sure that we are being screened. One of the things that we began to find out is that screening is not on the priority list. And we want to make sure that not only that we're able to talk about the importance of screening, but also be able to talk about what we need to be sharing or asking our primary care physicians in regards to when we need to be screening, what are the ramifications delaying screening. Cancer is not a death sentence. Cancer, early detection helps us to prevent cancer. And that's one of the things we want to make sure that we can articulate in regards to navigating this, the world of cancer. It becomes very important to also understand that cancer can run in your family through close relatives. So if you know of persons within your family, it becomes important to recognize and understand that the more we talk about it, the more we can begin to ask, and the early detection becomes extremely important. There's a flyer I'm going to grab real quick that talks about, you can't see this, but one of the things that we're asking, identify your name, organization, email. You can't even see, I can't even see it. So you can't see it on the screen, but it is a My Family Health Portrait. And this is something we can send to you, send to your organization, so that you can actually use this to share with family members and others within the community. The more we recognize the similarities, the more we're able to identify the importance of early detection, early screening, so that we can make sure that we stay on top of what the potentials could be in regards to cancer. So as we begin to start these particular conversations, it becomes very important for us to realize and understand its significance. What we are focusing on, the Ministers Alliance focusing on 4 specific cancers: cervical, breast, colorectal, and lung cancer. These are the 4 cancers that we recognize. There are many more that are out there, but these are the 4 cancers that we're able to, with intentionality, introduce you to the screening that with minimum cost that you can actually be screened for. And that becomes important to us and becomes important to our communities. And so as you begin to listen to the various stories, the various agencies and partners that we have, it becomes important and relative in regards to how we can better combat cancer in all that we do. What we want to make sure we also understand is that when we talk about close relatives, it may be about only 10% of persons within your family may have these cancers, but even though that number may be low, it's still relevant. And the more that we're able to learn about, the more important it becomes our responsibility to make sure that we are giving persons as much information as possible in regards to our family history. Our family history is extremely important. The more we know about family history, the more that we can be able to prevent cancer. The screenable cancers that we, as I said earlier, that we're going to be looking at is going to be the four that were highlighted: the lung cancer, the cervical cancer, colorectal cancer, and the breast cancer. And believe it or not, men can also have breast cancer. And so we don't want to underemphasize this in regards to the men in our community. So we want to make sure that we're educating as much as possible so that we can recognize the importance globally of cancer. I won't do a whole lot of talking because we have persons here that can help emphasize the importance of cancer. And one of the things that we have learned is, this is our third community conversation as we've identified, one of the things that we've learned is the importance of hearing the story of cancer survivors. And we also want you to listen to these stories, listen to the agencies that are sharing in regards to cancer, but also we will give you the opportunity to ask questions at the end of these particular conversations. And so at this time, we are going to have Elder Shirley that will come and share her story in regards to cancer survivorship.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Shirley, and this year I am 45 years and 21 years cancer survivor. In 1979, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my left breast. They never identified what type of cancer it was, just that it was a fast-growing cancer. In order to combat the cancer, I needed to have my ovaries removed. Which they did that. They told my family I had 6 months to live, but I'm still here 45 years later. I know I was healed by God. I did not have chemotherapy. I didn't have radiation. I didn't check my breast back then. I was in my 20s. I was a young mother with 2 children, so I needed to survive. So fast forward, in October of 2002, I was just sitting on my couch and I started examining my breast. And left breast was fine, but as I was examining the right breast, there was a gooey substance coming out of my breast. So I'm like, okay, what is this? And for an hour, I made a polka dot handkerchief. It was a Saturday. I didn't say anything to any of my family. That Monday, I called my primary care physician. I went in. I had 3 biopsies, because every time my surgeon did a biopsy, they do what they call a margin. They go up to where they think the cancer no longer exists. But every time she did a margin, there was more cancer. So by the 3rd time, she was in shock because she couldn't believe that it kept going. I had a nervous breakdown during that time. It was in February of 2003. I was supposed to have the surgery on the 13th. I lost it, literally. And so I went for some counseling. Long story short, in March of that year, I decided to have the breast removed. I had gone to see a radiologist. She said that radiation was not an option for me. She said if I was her mother, she would say mastectomy. I went to see the chemo doctor, not an option. So, long story short, I went into surgery by faith, believing that this cancer was going to leave my body. And I had a mastectomy, not being a vain person, but just being a woman There's certain things you don't expect to happen to your body. And so I went through some changes, and today still I go through some changes, but early detection is so very important. I have granddaughters, I have great-granddaughters, and it's very important. Didn't know if cancer ran in my family, breast cancer, because that things they didn't talk about back then. My mom did have cervical cancer back in the 60s. So I just have some statistics here as it pertains to Black women. Put my eyes on. Black women under 35 get breast cancer at 2 times the rate of white women and die at 3 times the rate. When I was first diagnosed, I was in my 20s. I was going for a CAT scan. They didn't even want to do the CAT scan because they said I was too young. But I had to advocate for myself and insist that they do this CAT scan. Now, 92% of Black women agree breast health is important, but only 25% of Black women have recently discussed it. Only 17% have taken steps to understand their risk. And the rate of survival for a breast cancer person is 5 years. 82% of Black women die from breast cancer within 5 years, 92% in white women. Black women under 30 die from breast cancer at 4 times the rate as white women. And breast cancer is the leading cause of cancer, of death in Black women. So I tell women, check the girls. The girls are important. So I just encourage you, if you haven't been screened, you need to get screened. I go diligently every year to get screened because I can still get cancer in the left breast. But I just hope something that I've said will encourage you to get yourself checked. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley, for sharing your story. And that is relevant. The stories that will be shared are extremely important as we journey down this path of community conversations. Every story that we'll probably hear is unique, and that's the piece we want to emphasize. It may not be the same experience for each person. And so the more we hear the varieties of stories that are shared by cancer survivors, the more important it becomes our responsibility to encourage women and men to make sure that they're getting the proper screening and asking the doctors the proper questions. As we say, Elder Shirley is another example that cancer is not a death sentence. And so it becomes very important that the earlier we're able to begin to talk about it. She's one of our first cancer survivors that identified that she was detected with cancer at age 20. And so when we think about that, young adults are extremely important in regards to articulating that it is not an old person's disease, it's not a middle-aged person's disease, it's a disease that can attack anybody and anyone. And we want to make sure that our population, the Black and brown population, is very important. And so being that Elder Shirley shared with us that she was detected with cancer at age 20, I want to have Brown University, their branch of the American Cancer Society, these are some young adults that are intentional in regards to communicating the importance of cancer. And so I'm going to ask them to come up this time and introduce themselves and also open the aperture in regards to understanding cancer.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Pastor Jenkins and the Rhode Island Ministers Alliance for the warm welcome. Great honor to be joining everyone today. Thank you so much for the story. We're the American Cancer Society at Brown volunteers. My name is Hamid. And I'm Ian. And we just want to share a little bit about what we do as an organization and the importance of screening and also our personal experience with cancer.
Yeah, so we're here from the American Cancer Society, part of the Brown University chapter, which is a student-led chapter of the American Cancer Society. And really, the American Cancer Society is a national nonprofit leading cancer fighting organization. with really a vision to end cancer as we know it, right, in anybody, just across all populations. And so our mission really is to improve the lives of people with cancer and their families, right, through advocacy, through research, through fundraising, through patient support. And we want to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to prevent, detect, treat, and of course survive cancer. So that's our mission, and that's why, we're here today really trying to make that a possibility, right? So a couple ways we kind of support cancer patients. Of course, we want to make sure that people have access to care. So we advocate, for high quality, affordable healthcare for everyone, including closing the Medicaid coverage gap through our American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, which is an advocacy branch that really looks to try to improve the medical coverage for cancer patients. We also advocate, of course, for prevention and screening, right? So we want to do educational events like this one to promote healthy lifestyles, right? And make sure that people are getting regular screening and making sure that they're listening to their healthcare professionals in order to get screening. And lastly, we really want to provide direct patient support, right? So we're not just encouraging you to get screened and detected, we're also willing to provide that support through many different programs. We have one program called Hope Lodge, which is taking cancer patients and providing them like a place to get cancer care. They can live there, they can get the care they need, and then after they're done with that, they can go back to like their homes. We also do like travel to cancer appointments, which is called Road to Recovery, and you'll have someone just take you directly from your house and go straight to the cancer treatment center. So there's many different programs that the American Cancer Society really supports, and we want to make people aware of that. So yeah, again, our chapter here, we support, the various pillars: advocacy, research, fundraising, patient support, in order to really help not only like cancer patients that are and students like that are on campus, but also the community right outside of Brown. So yeah, we do a lot of community events as well. We did Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, which is a downtown Providence cancer walk for breast cancer awareness. We also do a lot of volunteering at local hospitals, right? Interacting with cancer patients in the cancer centers. And we're looking to do more, and that's why we're part of this health initiative as well. So yeah, definitely something that really is really important to us and our mission, and of the American Cancer Society at large.
Great, so I do want to touch on the importance of early detection, like was mentioned. So we do live in a world where 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. That's the data we have. So screenings and early detection are incredibly important, and the American Cancer Society is really strong behind that. Screenings are common, they're well researched, and they are life-saving if they're done routinely. So when you go into your primary care provider and ask for screening. This is particularly so for the 4 that we've discussed today, so breast, cervical, colorectal, and lung, which are the 4 most common forms of cancer as well. Screenings can find the cancer in the early stages, often before you experience any symptoms in the first place. And this is especially important for cancers that don't show up symptom-wise until it's too late, which is often things like lung cancer. So the benefits of screening strongly outweigh the risks. So we see that appropriate screening reduces illnesses and deaths due to cancer. As an example, for cervical and colorectal cancer, new cases have declined in the last 30 years by about 55% and 45% respectively, and death rates have declined even more because of earlier detection. And these this data can be attributed in large part to screening, routine screening. So I'll pass it to Ian, who will share his personal story.
Yeah, so so it was really the beginning of high school for me, and my father was actually diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic lung cancer, okay? And so he actually passed away last March, and really tough situation, but I think what we can learn from this is if he was able to get screened before, right, who knows whether he would start treatment earlier, right, whether he would have been able to, get some sort of intervention before it had gotten to stage 4. And so that's why it's really important to get screened and as early as you can, and really talk to your healthcare professionals, right, to avoid getting to that stage. And so, yeah, I think it's a really important case study. It's definitely kind of taught me the importance of screening, especially because, the outcome could have been very, very different if he had gotten screened earlier. And so, yeah, I think, my story is just one of many. I think a lot of people out there, family members and cancer patients, we're all telling a story for a reason. It's because we're really trying to touch the lives and really communicate to other people, right? How necessary it is to be kind of very proactive about, right, cancer, and just make sure that you're getting screened, make sure that you're trying to prevent it as early as possible. And then when in the case that you are diagnosed, to also make sure you're seeking the right treatments, right? And of course, that's why, it's important to have a strong support community around you who will not only be by your side, but also try to encourage you to do the right thing as well. So I think, yeah, that's really what we want to say about cancer screening. I think the last plug, we are having a Relay for Life event. Relay for Life is a celebration event for cancer survivors and caregivers. It'll be hosted on Brown University's campus on the main green. Anybody is welcome to come, so feel free to show up. It'll be Friday, April 5th, 3 to 7 p.m. I'm sure that information will be thrown out there more often, so don't worry if you didn't get that. But we would love to have any of you show up. It's meant to be a really fun event, a celebratory event. Yeah, we would love for you to join us. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you very much. It is important to understand the different connections that we have within our community, and that helps to highlight not only us understanding its importance, but our community understand the importance of making this awareness part of our regular behavior. The more we talk about it, the more we learn. We have Dr. Kareem that is here with us today. And Dr. Kareem, what we want to, I know that you're on Zoom, but we can make sure that we can hear. We have plenty of audio here. And so, Dr. Kareem, what I'd like for you to do is to share, we know that you are a Faith Fellow, if I'm not mistaken, in regards to a GYN oncology fellow at Women and Infants. And so we'd like for you to share, if you can, at this time.
Hi, can you hear me? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Dr. Jansen. I'm a GYN oncology fellow at Women and Infants. I'm in my second year in my research year, so I'm actually in the lab right now. So what that means is I'm an OBGYN, and I've done my residency training, and then I'm doing 3 additional years to learn how to take care of women with female reproductive cancers. So that means we care for endometrial, cervical, ovarian, vulvar, and vaginal cancer. And so the big takeaways I like to make sure patients are aware of are, I think as mentioned before, the screening guidelines. Cervical cancer, we have pap smears, but I do want to stress that not every time do you get a pelvic exam, do you get a pap smear, so it's important to be aware of when and when you're not receiving a pap smear. The guidelines have changed recently in 2019, and they've become much more complex in how they're advised. But usually you want to be getting a pap smear about every 3 years. And then if there's any abnormalities, they usually want you to come in for more biopsies to take a closer look at everything. If at the age of 65 you've always had abnormal pap smears, the new guidelines state that you can stop getting them. But if you've ever had any history of abnormal pap smears, you're going to want to keep going. Warning signs for cervical cancer would be, generally in the early stages, there's really not any symptoms, and that can be kind of a theme for all cancer. But in the later stages, you'll see things like postcoital bleeding, like after intercourse.
Recording in progress.
Any bleeding in between your periods, things like that. But I always recommend all women have an OBGYN in their care team, or if your primary care provider is comfortable doing your pap smears, that's also a great option as well. In terms of vulvar or vaginal cancer, it's pretty rare, but if you have a condition like lichen sclerosis or HIV, you're at higher risk. So you also, again, just want to make sure you're getting regular pelvic exams. We usually say on the yearly to every other year basis. Ovarian cancer, there's unfortunately no great screening for it, but things I want you to think about would be like if your belly was bloating or you're not eating as well as you usually do, you've been losing weight, those things are really important. We actually think about 25% of ovarian cancers are inherited. So family history, I think like you mentioned before, cancer was not something a lot of us talked about back in the day, but now it's really important to make sure you have a full knowledge of your family history, particularly like your mom, your dad, your grandparents, and any siblings. You'll also want to know any age they were diagnosed and how they were treated, because that can really help your provider to know whether you need to get genetic screening. And that goes true for ovarian, colon, uterine, and endometrial cancer. We know that there's these genetic syndromes out there. And unfortunately, they're less well described in patient populations who are minority. A lot of the data is coming from non-minority populations. So if you have a strong family history, I think a lot of people think about Jewish ancestry, but if you have a strong family history of cancer, you really want to talk to your doctor about it, and they will probably recommend genetic screening. In terms of uterine cancer, the big thing I want patients to think about are if your menses have become irregular in any way, and then if you stopped having periods and you're postmenopausal, any bleeding, I don't care how much it is, if it's even just spotting, you need to go to an OBGYN. And don't ignore it. So the more time you ignore the postmenopausal bleeding, the more likelihood that that's uterine cancer and it's progressing. So we don't really have a screening protocol for uterine cancer because of that bleeding, but I do think some women sometimes write off the bleeding as like irritation or a hemorrhoid or bleeding from the urethra. But any bleeding you've ever noticed after you've become postmenopausal, you really need to go to the doctor. And if you feel like you're not getting adequately worked up, get a second opinion. That's another piece of advice I always give patients. And when patients ask if they should get a second opinion from our treatment, I really don't take that as an insult. I want someone to feel confident about their treatment. And sometimes you want to hear it from a couple of providers before you decide to proceed. And then in terms of breast cancer, I don't know if anyone here is going to talk about that, but the guidelines really change depending on which society you talk to. But the biggest thing I want to think about for patients is by the age of 50, you really should be getting regular mammograms at least every other year, if not every year. And if you have family history, you want to be getting that screening done 10 years prior to any diagnosis of breast cancer in your family. I also don't know if anyone's going to comment on colon cancer, but unfortunately the age of colon cancer is dropping in the country, and so the guidelines are reflecting that now with the age of 45. But if you find out that someone in your family has a colon cancer history younger than 50 or 55, then you actually need to be getting a colonoscopy 10 years prior to that diagnosis. And so that actually has become relevant for myself. I found out recently a family member had a colon cancer diagnosis pretty early on. So even in my 30s, I'm gonna end up getting colonoscopy. So, but that, I think that's a brief overview of everything I would want you to know about, but I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a question. Does the diagnosis of cancer always lead to a treatment of radiation and chemotherapy?
That's a good question. So early stage cancers in my world can often be treated with just surgery, and then we observe you. Sometimes there's risk factors that will recommend like a little bit of radiation, for example, for uterine cancer. And that has to do with whether your age and then some special features on your pathology report that influence that recommendation. So early stage uterine, early stage ovarian, and early stage cervical, and even early stage vulvar, we often just treat with surgery, which again kind of goes to that emphasis on early detection really leads to less treatment. Now, if you have advanced cancer, like we're talking stage 2 and up, for most of these cancers, then yes, you often will need chemotherapy and or radiation in my world. And that's just because once we know you've progressed to these stages, we know that there's a concern that there's microscopic disease that's hiding out somewhere in your body. So even if we do a surgery and we think we've gotten it all, but if you have disease in your lymph nodes, then there's a high probability that little cancer cells have started to travel in your body and are finding new homes to set up to become sites of distant disease. And that's why you would want to get the chemotherapy or get the radiation. I think there's a lot of fear about chemotherapy and radiation, which is understandable, especially because past prior treatments were much more aggressive and had a lot more toxicity and side effects. But we are getting better at it. That's not to say all the side effects are gone, and I would not discount that, but we are getting better.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? We also have Dr. Barry Fabius. Would you like to share as well, Dr. Fabius?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jenkins, and thanks everyone for your presentations. It's really been excellent to have the opportunity to listen to everyone's talk here. And the only thing I really would want to add is that screening done at a regular interval as recommended in one of the sites that you can look to is the United States Preventive Services Task Force, USPSTF, as it's referred to, will tell you kind of what the regular schedule that's recommended by that body is, and whether that's detection for breast cancer, cervical cancer, colon cancer, etc. The guidelines are all there and available for review if anyone wants to look at those. And I want to state the importance for screening beyond just the detection of cancer, but that it also has the possibility of detecting disease before it becomes cancer. So as an example, if you get colonoscopy and they find that you have colonic polyps or growths in the colon that have the potential to become cancer, but they can catch them before they have cancer, in a precancerous stage, and do the polypectomy, take the polyp out, even during the colonoscopy. And it's a simple procedure at that point, and you get rid of the growth, and you get rid of the potential for cancer. So screening, again, is not only important in the detection of early stage cancers, which are curable, but it's also important in the detection of these lesions or changes which are precancerous, and by removing them, obviously curable. So, I guess I'd just like to join the whole panel of speakers here in saying, it's remarkably important to get the screening done, as recommended by your primary care physician. or the USPSTF, to make sure that, we pick up these lesions before they're cancer or in early stage cancer when they're not only treatable but curable. Thank you, Pastor Jenkins.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all of our partners at UHC and Planned Parenthood and all that are here to support this particular effort. There's a partner that came on board with us only about 2 weeks ago and never had been aware of it, the Partnership to Reduce Cancer in Rhode Island. And at this time, we'll have Megan to share the importance of this newly formed organization in regards to also identifying the need to reduce cancer out. So Megan, if you can come and share at this time.
Thanks, Pastor Jenkins. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Megan. I'm Executive Director of the Partnership to Reduce Cancer in Rhode Island. We are the state's cancer coalition. We've actually been around since 2007, but we recently became a 501c3 nonprofit in late 2020. And so that has allowed us to expand the work that we do. Our mission is to prevent cancer and improve the quality of life for all Rhode Islanders living with cancer, and we do so in 3 main avenues: advocacy, supportive resources, and education. And so we strive to be a leader for the state in our efforts to prevent cancer, improve quality of life, but we know we can't do it alone. We have to do it with our partners, and so we greatly value community partnerships, such as working with the Ministers Alliance, having the opportunity to be here to speak and to share what we're doing and our resources with everyone. And so while I don't have anything specific to talk about, in terms of data around screening, I just want to echo what everyone has been saying around the importance of screening and early detection. So we know with the 4 screenable cancers that we've been talking about this morning, early detection is key. If you want to improve your chances, of survival, have better outcomes, better treatment options, you want to detect the cancer as early as you can. And so it's important to be aware of what the screening options are, what's available to you, and also being an advocate for yourself. So we at the partnership believe in being a strong advocate as the patient, as the caregiver, family, friends, anyone who's involved, so you can ensure that you're getting the best options and the best care for yourself. I do want to talk a little bit about the programs that we have. And so I have a brochure here. We have some copies that we can pass out, and I will share our website as well for everyone who's online with us. But some of our main work is, we have our key event of the year is our annual Rhode Island Cancer Summit. And so that's over the past few years has been held in the fall, and that is a hybrid event. So we encourage folks to join us in person, but if you can't, you can join virtually on Zoom as well. And what's great about that is it's allowed other folks from different states to join us. And so that's a educational conference event. We usually have a theme and speakers for half of a day talking about specific themes that we identify and topics that we identify. And so we have a flyer that I think Pastor Jenkins is gonna grab that includes our save the date for this year for anyone who's interested. A couple of other events. This isn't comprehensive of all of our work, but with regards to screening, we have our Skin Check program, which is actually for skin cancer screening. There isn't a recommended screening for skin cancer, but we are able to do in partnership with Brown Dermatology screenings of the skin at the beaches, and it's a free event, which is great. We all know how long it can take to see the dermatologist, and so we hold a few of those in the summer every year, and it's an opportunity for folks to be able to get screened if they don't have a dermatologist, if they don't have insurance. We also have a lung cancer screening task force, so we're working very intimately around lung cancer screening, attempting to improve the rates of screening within the state. We know that they're quite low. There's a high percentage of adults in Rhode Island who are eligible for lung cancer screening, but we have seen through data that they aren't getting screened. And so the purpose of that work group is to try to get those folks to their screening if they're eligible. We also are open to new members all of the time. It's free to be a member. And so for those of you who have the brochure, you can get more information. And for those of you who are online, you can go to prcri.org and you can learn more about the other work that we're doing. Sign up for events. We also will be having a quarterly meeting in April. I think it's April 24th. It's a Wednesday, and it's actually going to be here at Bethel AME Church. And we're going to be talking about HPV vaccination and efforts that our partners at the health department, their immunization program, have been doing to increase vaccination rates among our adolescents. I will leave it at that, but if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Megan. Another one of our partners is Alicia Fernandez, is with United Healthcare, and we want to have Alicia to have the opportunity to share in regards to the United Healthcare perspective. Alicia, would you mind sharing with us at this time?
Hi, everybody. I do community outreach for United Healthcare, so a lot of what I do is bring flyers into the community that show the different cancer screenings that should be provided that you all have discussed today, and just have those materials available to our community that are in need, and just try to stress that, the importance of them having these screenings done. So we do have multiple flyers regarding breast cancer, prostate cancer, so if anybody is interested in having those materials available at your facility or your location churches, we'd be more than happy to email that or print them down. If there's any events that you might have that you think would benefit from us being there and having this information available, be more than happy. Between me and my co-worker, Peter Pevley, we go all over Rhode Island in the community to provide this information. So, and on the flyers, it does just show, I was just taking a look at a few different ones, that all of these screenings with United Healthcare done with an in-network provider are covered by United Healthcare. So I do the Medicaid side, so we all know that would be covered in full, but it's important to stress to people that do have the coverage that they're not going to receive an out-of-pocket cost for getting these screenings done, because I know some people may be concerned about not being able to fulfill that cost. So, but that's really it. If you have any questions, or Pastor can provide my email and information if you would like those flyers, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free to let me know.
Any questions? Thank you very much, Alicia. As we've heard a number of our partners and community advocates, it becomes important to understand that this actually represents the impact that cancer has had across this country, and the intensity in regards to helping all people to be able to recognize the importance of screening, the importance of survivorship. And so one of the things we really want to make sure we overemphasize is that these community conversations is just the top of the spectrum in regards to where we have to go from here. And so we recognize cancer screening, but the survivorship support piece is very critical. And as we continue these various conversations, we will get into more of the survivor support. And so as the Ministers Alliance continues this journey, it becomes our responsibility to understand the significance of all that is going on around us, so that we can be able to share with those that we know, those that we don't know, that there are resources within our community. And so these conversations actually help persons to navigate in finding those resources. You may be hearing the same conversation over and over again, but we believe that repetitiveness is extremely important. One of the things that we are very much in tune to recognize in our community, the more we talk about it, the more we're able to encourage others to learn and also be aware of what is out there, particularly when we talk about cancers. As I said, we will be doing this on a consistent basis. You'll be seeing flyers throughout your community in regards to dates. Looking at the schedule now in regards to, we have at least 6 dates in the month of March that we will continue these community conversations. We have those that will be Zoom and those that will be in person. And what we're asking is that as you begin to hear, continue to invite persons that are being part of this conversation. We know that we're connected to Facebook, and we want to make sure that this communication goes out to all that we possibly can touch. That becomes extremely important. One of the things that also that Pastor Pam asked that you do, I'm trying to look at my notes here. For those that are on, please identify your name, your organization, and your email. And so that becomes extremely important. For those that are on Facebook, if you go to the Ministers Alliance Rhode Island, also identify your name, your organization, and your email so we can make sure that we keep in contact with you all as well. But one of the important things about this particular conversation is that questions, if there are questions, we want to make sure that persons that are on can ask these questions. We have the subject matter experts that are here, so I want to make sure that if there's questions, you can be asked and you can get an answer. Do we have any questions that are on Facebook or in the Zoom chat? That means all of our agencies did an excellent job. They answer all the questions. So momentarily, you are off the hook. Let's see here. Question?
Yeah, it's more of a comment. I just wanted to say, when we're talking about resources too, that if folks are looking for financial support in getting screened, so say they don't have insurance or they're gonna go get a follow-up and they might have a copay or deductible, that the Rhode Island Department of Health, the women's cancer screening, might be able to help with that. And we do thousands of screenings every year. We help to support those. And for folks who don't have insurance, a lot of times, if you need to go into treatment, we can get you enrolled into Medicaid as well. So, yeah, so, don't let insurance or lack of insurance be a barrier. And if you have any questions, feel free to call us. You can look us up online. It's the Rhode Island Women's Cancer Screening Program at the Department of Health.
So that's important to remember that there are ways that if funding is needed for those who do not have the health insurance. Rhode Island Department of Health, what was that again?
It's the Women's Cancer Screening.
Women's Cancer Screening. Breast and cervical. Q, you have a question?
Yes, hi. Thank you for inviting me to this community conversation. And I just want to piggyback off of what Eric had just mentioned about insurance. I work for the Rhode Island Health Center Association, and we support the federally qualified health centers or community health centers here in the state of Rhode Island. So just want to remind folks too that if they are looking for applying for health insurance and they're not sure of where to go, we support that program through Health Source Rhode Island to get folks connected. Whether they qualify for insurance in the market or Medicare, Medicaid, we have folks that can help them walk through that process. And we also provide a lot of resources, even for those who might be undocumented or for children, if you're unsure of where to go. So please reach out to us as well. I will provide our information to the Ministers Alliance, and feel free to put that information out there. I'll also post our website on the chat if you want to also share that with folks who are participating today.
Thank you very much. Yes, if you could put that on the chat, that'd be good. I'm looking at the chat to see if there's any particular questions that are here. There. A lot of communication can be found in English, Spanish, or Creole. So that's a FYI for persons that are here. We want to thank everyone that have given their names and email address and organizations. Is there anything within the audience, you have questions that you would like to share?
I wanted to say that I appreciated Ian's personal story, because I've never had a physician recommend lungs cancer screening. I have the other three regularly, so I'm gonna bring that up with my PCP.
And what Sister Mary has shared is very important. As we begin to have these conversations, we learn a little bit. Sometimes the drip, but that drip may be very important. And so we begin to open the aperture, I like to use that word aperture quite a bit, in understanding things. In this case, it's cancer. So we learn how to ask our primary care physicians the questions that we may not have known that we could ask. And that's the importance of these community conversations. The more we learn, the more we share. And the more we share, the awareness grows. The awareness grows, we're better educated as people. Anything else? Anything else? I don't know if you want to let folks off the hook this easy. Any other questions? Yes.
Pastor Jenkins, in our community, often there is a thought that if you have cancer and you get surgery, that when you open the body up, the cancer spreads. Can someone answer that if that's true, or is that urban legend? Because sometimes that prevents people from taking the next steps on getting cured.
The question that Pastor Laura Small asked is, within particularly our Black and brown communities, the thought pattern is once a person has been diagnosed with cancer and they have to go into surgery, once you open whatever that area is that the cancer spreads. Could one of the doctors or physicians or all of you respond to that? Is that something, is that a myth? Is it actual, or has times changed in regards to the surgery procedure?
I think I can weigh in on that, at least for the cancers I treat. In terms of like vulvar and vaginal cancer, you're really excising skin and you're getting negative margins, so that won't lead to spread. In terms of uterine cancer, if it's contained within the uterus, the surgery itself does not lead to spread of the cancer. If it's already spread outside of the uterus into the lymph nodes, then it's kind of a moot point at that point. But during uterine cancer surgeries, all care is taken to make sure that the uterus is not disrupted, and like spread of the cells would not be furthered, similar to cervical cancer. Now, ovary is kind of a special thing where if the cancer is contained to the ovary itself, we do. This is why it's really important to have your surgery done by someone with oncology training if there is concern for ovarian cancer. But if it's contained to the ovary, then we have to actually usually perform a much bigger surgery to take it out, because we don't want to pop it or disrupt it, because that theoretically could lead to spread of the ovarian cancer within the abdomen. And that would be, there's within our guidelines that leads to what we call upstaging of the cancer. But in general, the surgery itself, as long as it's carried out correctly, should not lead to spread or dissemination of the cancer.
And I'll just piggyback on that to say that as Dr. Jensen has said, that when you're in conversation with your doctor, the recommendations that are made because that risk-benefit ratio has already been considered and is based on all the current science and literature that's out there to make the right decision. And the excision of the tumor or the surgery itself is much more beneficial than the risk of causing the tumor to spread, which is quite rare. So I think again, the best recommendation is that you have that discussion with your doctor and surgeon to know what's the right course for you. But in general, surgery is only performed, or should only be performed, because it's going to lead to much more benefit than risk.
Thank you, Dr. Barr, as well. Dr. Jensen, you said something that sort of surprised me. You said make sure that you have the right surgeon for the particular surgery. is that sometimes persons have not, I don't know how to ask this, don't have the right specialist for the particular procedure? I'm surprised you made that comment.
Yeah, so there's data that suggests that a lot of women with ovarian cancer actually end up getting treated by a surgical oncologist who undergoes different training than a gynecologic oncologist. And outcomes have been shown to be better for those patients if they are treated by a gynecologic oncologist. In terms of a diagnosis of ovarian cancer, it's unfortunately not uncommon for us to get referrals for patients who had an ovarian tumor removed by a benign gynecologist, and they then didn't get the proper, what we call staging procedures done in addition, where you take additional samples of tissue, and then we have to take them back to the operating room to get those additional samples of tissue. In addition, that surgeon may, inadvertently disrupt the tumor, leading to the concern for that spread, as we discussed. This can't always be controlled for because, sometimes gynecologists have special guidelines to help them decide when someone should go to a GYN oncologist, like the training I'm doing. And sometimes those guidelines will advise that they do get referred or don't get referred. So that's kind of what I'm referencing is, that call between a benign gynecologist and a GYN oncologist, and also the call between a surgical oncologist and a GYN oncologist. Does that explain my comment? Sorry.
Yes, it does. And what that also says is that, if I'm saying this correctly, if not, please correct me, you should get as many specialists to look at that cancer as possible so you can make sure whatever that next step in regards to procedure is, that you have the right specialist to perform that particular surgery if that's what's needed, correct?
Yeah, I would agree. I think if you have any concern about your treatment plan, I would always advise considering a second opinion. You don't want to delay your care, however, so if you have something going on that you want to be treated by, you can get second opinions usually pretty quickly from specialists, at least in my world, but in some other specialties, not as much. But I think any well-trained gynecologist will know kind of the limits of what type of ovarian tumors they should and should not remove. But if you're ever concerned, then it's always reasonable to ask for a second opinion.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions we may have?
Pastor, I'd just like to say, I know she was talking about, once it gets to the surgery point, but this is the importance of us being out there and promoting the preventative screening so that we're catching these things before it's to the point of where it's spread even more, where it might cause more harm. So it's great that we're trying to get out in this community and express how important it is to do these screenings yearly or as often as they need to be done.
Thank you very much, Alicia, for that. For indeed, that's why we're here. The more information out there, the better off we'll be collectively, not just individually, but collectively. Any additional questions from those that are online or those that are here with us? I want to thank everyone for coming. We greatly appreciate. Our next community conversation is scheduled for March 5th. That will be at Second Free Will Baptist Church, 6:30 to 8 p.m. So that will be an evening session, and we'll make sure that we circulate additional community conversations. We will target Tuesdays and Thursdays for our community conversations. So please make sure as you see the information, the Tuesdays and the Thursdays. That same week, March 7th, we will have 11 to 12:30 community conversation, which will be totally hybrid in regards to the different platforms we communicate. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank all of our partners who are here. Thank our community that has come, and we thank you, all of the specialists that have shared in regards to their knowledge and experience. And so we say again, thank you, and please make sure you connect again with us. The next one being March 5th at Second Free Will Baptist Church. That address is 75 Chester Avenue. 75 Chester Avenue in Providence, Rhode Island. So again, thank you and God bless you, and we thank you again for your support. Thank you all very, 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 very much. Very, very, very. And,
What's that date again? March?
she's talking.
6?
I
6:30?
think yours is 6:30. Yes. Yep, it is. It is.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And you guys let us know. because
Yeah, we got the email. Yep. Thank you. You did good, see?
I'm gonna be away for a little bit, but
And you're the lead volunteer person anyway, survivor person. So what you can do for me, though, if you can, and I think it's better for you, because you'll know for your schedule, that you can schedule the ones that's gonna be for the next one, and where, so I will be sending you, I have to do this.
You can just change that because it's another church.
Because we're
It's gonna
having
be the same
one.
church we have
Yeah, the
first.
first time.
The
Right.
fifth was supposed to be at God's house, Bishop Doug. So
Thank you.
they're gonna change it to Thursday. Change it and resend it out to everybody. So if you can, let me know who's gonna be the survivor speaker. The survivor speaker for the date, or for any date, okay? And then you can tell me and I'll put it in the, so that whoever's the facilitator can. Yeah.